Alright, we're going to be fixing a chain today. So we have this chain here, and it got pulled. So the jump ring is missing, and this spring ring is pulled here. So this has to get tightened up. So we're going to be attaching this to one side of the chain. We're going to be making a new jump ring for this side of the chain and looping it through this. All right, let's get started. First things first, let's make the jump ring. So we want to make it look even with the rest of the design. So we don't want a jump ring that's too small or too big. So something that looks about right. So I'm going to probably make it about, kind of using this to gauge it, somewhere around there. So we're going to start doing that. And we'll take a look at it and see what it is. So that's probably about the right size. All right, let's snip this. Now that we snipped it, we're gonna make sure that the ends are flush or flattened. So I'm just getting in there with a little bit of sandpaper. I'm gonna flip it over. Okay, so those are much better. So now we're gonna bring them in. So I'm just taking my pliers and then I'm gonna bring them back and forth until they close that gap that was between them. I'm gonna give them a little bit of a press. Okay, now that we have our jump ring, it's time to put the pieces together and then close the jump ring up. So we're gonna be attaching the chain first. So there's the chain on there. And there's the little tab. And then we'll close the jump ring up. And then this jump ring is going to be soldered together. So that way it doesn't pull apart during use. So that's the end of that. We'll have to clean it up, remove any sort of thing and polish it up and make it look good. Now the other side, this is just pulled apart. And this is something that, is pretty common maintenance and can happen to a lot of people's chains. This is a pretty easy fix. So as long as the actual trigger part still functions and you can, it has some tension, and when you pull it back, there's a gap, and when you release it, it goes back into place. As long as that's still working, this is still good and you don't need to replace it. So all this, we'll just bend it so that way it's going on the chain again, and then make sure that this is flat and flush, so that way there's very little light showing or none. And then you'll be all set, and this chain, after it's cleaned up a little bit, is ready to wear again. So we grab the chain, try and get it through the little loop there, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, now that it's on, we have the jump ring essentially that's on this clasp, and we'll bring You can see how it's separated. So we'll just holding onto it with my fingers there. Just grab onto a little bit of it, like so. And then we'll just turn it until they're right up flush. So that's it. This can't take any heat. It's a very fine piece. And so there's usually a gap on this style of clasp. So, and that's it. So just polish it up. You can see that the trigger still works. And there we go. So the reason why it can't take heat, there's a little tiny spring, steel spring in there. And if you put heat on this with the torch that we're using, it's going to cook the insides, and then it will cease to function. So there we go. So the chain, you just cleaned up the end a little bit with a brush and some polish. So this won't require very much in the way of cleaning. So just have an ultrasonic. So what I usually do, I make sure that the chain is on there, loop it once, and then I usually just stick it on the rack. It's important to clean your chains regularly. They get a lot of skin oils on them, and then they get kind of, you know, they won't be as brilliant looking as what they should be. Alright, so it's finished cleaning in the ultrasonic. So we're going to rinse it off. I'm going to give it a little bit of a steam. So I like keeping it on the rack here so that way. Definitely more brilliant looking than before.